So you've read the 48 Laws of Power, you've read 12 Rules for Life and 12 More Rules for Life, you've read Atomic Habits, you read the 4-Hour Work Week, and still, you don't have the answer. You're reaching for another book. But before you go back to your bookshop, or Amazon, or wherever you get your books from, let me put you onto some heat, some absolute heat that will change the way that your life goes from here on out. I guarantee, if you can stick with it. It's not a non-fiction book. They're too real. And you might think that's a good thing. But philosophy that we base most of this off of, Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, Epictetus, they weren't going off science, off the way the world worked. They were going off how the world felt. Talking about gods, none of that was real. I think we're past the age of believing that Zeus is real. But they still spoke about the gods as if they were some sort of divine power. So maybe we should be tapping back into fiction. And that's where these recommendations come from. Fiction can exaggerate. Fiction can put in metaphors what fiction, non-fiction cannot. You can see things differently. You can understand things better. And all because it's not made up. No, it's not based on facts and statistics. It's not based on boring facts and statistics. Yeah, there's a time. Yeah, they're great. But there's a time and a place. So book 1. The Post Office by Charles Buckowski. Gritty, real, about the working man. Someone who works in a post office, hates his job, and is just at the bottom. It's written in a very digestible way. It's not filled with all of these complex words and that nobody understands, and they're just there to gatekeep people like us out of these kind of books. But yeah, if you want a book that will make you feel seen by someone who's at the bottom, working a horrible job, doesn't get paid very much, and I don't want to spoil the ending, but it's very real. I think it's based on his life, even though it's called fiction. So yes, slightly autobiographical. So you can get your little sense of non-fiction in there. But it's exaggerated, it's metaphorical, and it's dirty. So, moving on. Book number 2. One of my personal favourites. Albert Camus, The Outsider. Now, our main protagonist in this one, I'm going to butcher his name. Meursault. Saut. Anyway, he's kind of like a very nonchalant guy. He's impartial, he doesn't react. He's kind of like a stoic, but stoics care about things. Our protagonist here, he just watches the world go by until he falls in love. And then he does something very impartial again. And it really puts into perspective a lot of the way that we lead our lives. That you can't just go around being nonchalant. You can't just go around not caring. And if you feel that you are that kind of way, that you're impartial to the way the world's going, you're going to focus on yourself, or just you don't even care about really what happens to yourself. You're just going through the motions out there. This is a great book for you. It's a good introduction to the philosophy of absurdism as well. If you've been looking at Stoicism, or you've been looking at nihilism or existentialism, try absurdism. Life has no meaning, but I'm going to try my best anyway. And I think that's what the world needs. Moving on. Another favourite. The Metamorphosis. Got to cover my face so it focuses. By Franz Kafka. I went to the Oxford event in his honour, which is lovely. But anyway, it's about a guy who wakes up, he loves his job, maybe a little bit too much, and he gets a lot of his perceived value from what he brings to the family. You know, food, bills, his income, basically. And one day, he wakes up and he's a bug. He still tries to go to work, but he starts terrifying everyone that sees him. So he's bound to his room. Now, a lot of us bound ourselves to our room, To say that I don't would be hypocritical. I'm recording this video. It takes this is the second time I'm recording this video, so double whatever the normal time would be. And it's kind of a way, it would hopefully be a business eventually, or lead to something. So I'm basing a lot of my self-worth off of what I'm doing from my room. What's separate, what's different than being the protagonist of this book, Gregor Samsa, and just staying in my room and being a bug. So if you feel like you maybe spend too much time in your room, or you're told that you spend too much time in your room, or you just feel like you have to get any worth, that you have to be reading, you have to be working, you have to be studying, you have to be creating to have any self-worth, maybe this is a good book for you. Because although it might not be, I don't want to give away the endings, but the good thing about fiction is it doesn't have to be a happy ending where if you eat this diet, you will be a great person. If you do these 3 things, you will change your life. These 3 books, it's gritty, it's real. The protagonist won't always win. You won't always get the outcome, the happy ending that you do in Disney films. They're real. They're for the normal person who's trying to work their way up. And they're a nice taste breaker from your optimistic American kind of everything's going to be okay, everything's super positive. If you just smile, everything would be better. It's not the way it's going to be. We all need a mix of that American positivity and that European realism. So, for the last book, there's nothing more British than George Orwell. Our last book on the list, 1984. You've heard of it. You've probably never read it because, I don't know, why haven't you read it? I just know you haven't. So, it's about our main character, Winston, in a world where he feels like he's being suffocated by the surveillance of the government. So what does he do? He rebels. And what happens then? I don't know, but maybe it's a good little anecdote, a good little comparison to what a lot of people will be going through. They feel like they're not being supported enough, that they're being controlled, they're being suffocated by rules and decisions that we're not making. At the end of the day, the individual person is not making the decisions of the government. And if that's how you feel, this book has the most substance. It's the longest book. All the other books are less than 150 pages. I can say safely. I think Metamorphosis is below 100. But this book has the most pages. It's got the most substance. It's gripping. It's still introductory. It's nothing that's going to confuse you. You might have to look up a word or two in a dictionary, which I would recommend you do, and a phone. Just make it a bit more, screenless time. Because a lot of people will spend all week staring at a medium screen to then spend the weekend looking at a big screen while scrolling on a small screen as a reward for staring at that medium screen all week. That's just have a book, have a dictionary, have a piece of paper to write your favorite quotes, analyze it a bit. What are your thoughts? Or how do you compare? And just enjoy it. Take some time away from the hustle, away from the grind, and just learn something through fiction. The way that we used to learn things through Disney films as we were kids. How to be a good friend, how to be a responsible person, how to make better decisions. We learned through works of fiction, through children's storybooks. That doesn't have to stop because we're adults. So yes, those are my 4 recommendations. Buy them from wherever you feel necessary. If possible, support a local bookshop. Like for part 2, I've got more than enough books to go again. See you all tomorrow.